Hello, you guys. Welcome to today's lesson on the distributive property. Before you start this lesson, make sure that you have completed the simplifying expressions lesson and also the quiz. Check your feedback and make sure that you have a 3 out of 3 on that quiz. After we learn about the distributive property and how to apply it, we are going to be working on simplifying some more complex expressions. So before we even get started with the distributive property, let's just talk about a few ways that are implied multiplication in algebra. So we know that if we have a number right next to a variable, that is implied multiplication. We know that this is 3 times by x, okay? If we have a number next to a parenthesis, with another number inside the parenthesis, we also know that this is implied multiplication. So this would be 4 times 2, which is 8. Or we might have a number in a parenthesis, 3. It doesn't look like a 3. Okay, so 3 times by 2. Okay, anytime there is a number right by a parenthesis, that is implied multiplication. So this would be 3 times 2, which is 6. The distributive property is a multiplication property. And how it works is that when you have a number or a variable right next to a parenthesis, and there is more than one term inside the parenthesis, both of the terms inside the parenthesis have to get multiplied by what's out front. Okay, so this would be a times b, which gives us our AB, and then A times C, which gives us our AC. Okay, if we have two terms that are being subtracted inside the parenthesis, the distributive property works the same. Because there is a number right next to the parenthesis, we would multiply both of the terms inside the parenthesis by what's out front. So A times B gives us our AB, and A times C gives us our AC. And notice in this case, there is a subtraction sign in between them because there was a subtraction sign in between the terms here in our parenthesis. So let's go ahead and look at a few examples of this. Let's say we have 3 times by x plus 5. You can see that the 3 gets multiplied by the x, and then that gives us our 3x. 3 gets multiplied by the 5, that gives us our positive 15. Okay, in this case, we have the parenthesis first next to a number. Okay, so this number 3 has to get multiplied by the 5, and it has to get multiplied by the x. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times x is 3x. For the next example, we have two terms inside the parenthesis. We have x minus 5. And so since we have this number 3 right next to the parenthesis, that means implied multiplication. So 3 times x would be 3x. 3 times negative 5 would be negative 15. And in this case, we're going to do the same thing because we have this number 3 right next to the parenthesis. 3 times negative 5 is our negative 15, and 3 times x is 3x. So let's go ahead and try a few of these. Question number 1, we have the number 3 that's right next to the parenthesis. So the 3 is going to get multiplied by the x. That would be 3x. The 3 gets multiplied by the 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So this becomes 3 times x plus 6. If we look at number 2, we have the number 4 out front of the parenthesis. So the 4 has to get distributed to both the x and the negative 3, or the subtract 3. So 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 3 is 12, and because there's a subtraction sign here, this would be a minus 12. Okay, the next one, number 3, we would do negative 2 times y, which is negative 2y, and then negative 2 times 4 would be a negative 8. Now, one thing you have to be very careful of here is your signs, okay? And it's important to realize that if there is a subtraction sign in front of a number, that actually makes the number negative. If there is a negative in front of the number, it makes it negative, okay? So another way we could have written number 3 would have been negative 2y plus negative 8. Okay, let's look at number 4. Negative 2 times y is negative 2y. Negative 2 times, we've got a minus sign in front of this 6, so that actually makes it a negative. So negative 2 times negative 6 would be positive 12. Okay, on question number 5, you can see that we have a multiplication here, and then we also have an addition. And we always need to make sure that we follow our order of operations when we're simplifying. So we need to take care of this multiplication before we do this addition. Okay, so we're going to do 3 times x, which is 3x. 3 times a negative 2, which is a negative 6. Then we have our plus 5. And we know that negative 6 and positive 5 are like terms. So we can go ahead and combine those. We would have 3x. When we combine negative 6 and positive 5, we get a negative 1. Okay, another way you could write that is 3x plus negative 1. Both of those are the same answers, and they are both correct. Okay, number 6, I'm going to go ahead and clear off some space here. This page is looking a little bit busy, and I'm going to write number 6 bigger up here. So we have 3 times by x minus 3 and then minus 7. So we need to take care of the distributing first. We're going to distribute the 3 to both the x and this negative 3. Remember that if there is a minus sign in front of a number, it actually makes it negative. So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Then we still have our subtract 7. So from there, we are going to simplify by combining our like terms. We have these two constants right here that we can combine. There's a minus sign in front of the 9, which makes it a negative 9. There's a minus sign in front of the 7, which makes it a negative 7. When you are doing these, I want you to please get out your calculators. When you type negative 9 minus 7 into your calculator, you're going to get negative 16. Or you could type in negative 9 plus negative 7, and you're going to get negative 16. Okay, so number 6 simplifies to 3 times x minus 16. Okay, let's go ahead and do some more practice problems. I think that by looking at practice problems and going through them, it's a really good way to learn how to apply this property. On number 7, what I want you to notice is that in between these two sets of parentheses, there is an addition sign. Okay, so we can think about there being like this imaginary 1 here. And what we're doing is we're taking all 3 of these terms and then we're adding all 3 of these terms. Okay, so we would have 2x squared plus 5x squared, right? Those are like terms. 2x squared and 5x squared, those are like terms. That would be 7x squared. Okay, and then we also have a 5x and a negative 2x. Because there's a minus sign in front of this 2x, that actually makes it negative. So remember, when you're combining like terms, you just combine the coefficients. 5 plus negative 2 is a positive 3x. Okay, so we've taken care of these. We've taken care of these. And now we have a negative 1 plus 9. Because there's a minus sign in front of the 1, it actually makes it negative. Negative 1 plus 9 is 8. Okay? So let's go ahead and do the next example. I'm going to clear this page off again so it doesn't look too messy. What I want you to notice here is that there is a minus sign in front of this parenthesis. So whenever you have a minus sign in front of a parenthesis, it gets distributed to all of the terms inside the parenthesis as if it were like a negative 1, okay? And before we combine like terms here, we have to distribute this minus to this term, and this term, okay? Because basically what is happening is these terms are subtracting each of these terms, okay? So here we go. A negative 1 times a negative 3xy would be a positive 3xy. Negative 1 times positive 4x is negative 4x. Negative 1 times negative 7y is positive 7y. Okay. Now we can take the 2xy, the positive 6x, and the minus 2y, and we can combine them with these other terms. So we have 2xy, we can combine with 3xy, so we're just going to add the coefficients. That becomes 5xy. Then we have 6x, positive 6x, that we can combine with this negative 4x, because there's a minus sign in front of it, actually makes it negative. So in your calculator, type in 6 plus negative 4, and that will give you a plus 2x. And then for the last one, we have a negative 2y. We can combine that with a positive 7y. So in your calculator, if you type in negative 2 plus 7, you're going to get plus 5y. Okay, let's go ahead and look at number 9. I just tried to provide you with lots of different examples here. On number 9, can you see that there is a minus sign here, right? And there's also a minus sign here. So both of these minus signs need to be distributed to all of the terms inside the parenthesis as if this was a negative 1. So let's go ahead and do that first. Negative 1, so we're going to do it right here. Negative 1 times 4a would be a negative 4a. Negative 1 times, remember there's a minus sign in front of this 7, so it actually makes it a negative. So negative 1 times negative 7 is a positive 7b. Then we have a negative 1 times by a negative 5. See the minus sign in front of the 5? That actually makes it negative. So negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. Okay. Then for these ones, we have negative 1 times a. That's going to give us our negative 1a. We have negative 1 times positive b, which gives us our negative 1b. And then we have negative 1 times positive 1, which gives us our negative 1. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move this right here. See if I can move the whole thing. I don't know that I can. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it. So we have a negative 4a, and then we had a positive 7b, and then we had a positive 5, and then we have a negative 1a, negative 1b, and negative 1. And then we also have these terms, 7a plus, oh man, I'm going to run out of room again, 3b, and then we have a minus 2. I'm just going to go, actually, I'm going to rewrite this, but smaller, just so it looks clean. My pen is not working very well today. Okay, so let's start with this. We have 7a plus 3b minus 2, and then we have a minus 4a plus 7b plus 5, and then we have a negative 1a, a negative 1b, and a negative 1. Okay, so now we're going to combine like terms. So let's go ahead and start right here with the 7a. So we have a 7a, we have a negative 4a, because there's a minus sign in front of it, actually makes it negative. We have a negative 1a. So 7 plus negative 4 is 3. 3 plus negative 1 is 2. 2a. Okay, so we just took care of these. I'm going to just cross them out so that we know that we've taken care of all of the terms that have an a. The next one that we'll do is the b. So we have the ones that have a variable b. So we have 3b. We have a positive 7b. And we have a negative 1b. Remember to pay attention, pay careful attention to the sign in front of the number. Okay, pay attention to the sign of the coefficient. That's what you're going to combine. So 3 plus 7 is 10. 10 minus 1 is 9. Okay. Then we have minus 2, so a negative 2, a positive 5, and a negative 1. So negative 2 plus 5 is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. Okay, that was a big problem, wasn't it? Okay, so remember the first thing that we did is we distributed the negative to all three of these terms. Then we distributed the negative to all three of these terms. Then we combined like terms. Okay. Question number 10 and 11, you can see they're a lot more simple. On question number 10, you have a 5 right next to the parenthesis. Inside the parenthesis, you have the terms 6 times y plus negative 1. So we have to distribute the 5 to the 6y and the 5 to the negative 1. So this becomes 30y plus negative 5. Okay, for number 11, negative 3 times 2z is negative 6z. Negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12. Okay, so we have a few more. We have even more practice before we move on to your quiz. You can see that these are getting a lot more complicated. I am going to go ahead and copy this and put it on its own. I'm going to put it on its own page so that we have lots of room so that this is clear for you. So we have 2. We have 2 times by 2x. And I know you guys are writing this down too. Minus 2 plus 3 times by 4x plus 6. And then minus 5x plus 3. Okay, so this looks really complicated, but it's not. It's actually fairly easy. We just have to remember to follow our process correctly. So when we're simplifying an expression, we need to make sure we're following order of operations. So we're going to have to do this multiplication. So we need to distribute this 2. And we need to do this multiplication. That means we need to distribute this 3. And then once we have distributed, then we can combine all of our like terms. Okay, so we have a 2 that's right next to the parenthesis. Inside the parenthesis, we have a 2x and we have a minus 2. So we're just going to multiply this 2 by both the 2x and by the negative 2. 2 times 2x is 4x. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Okay, then we have plus. We're going to distribute this 3 to both the 4x and the 6. 3 times 4x is 12x. 3 times 6 is 18. And then we have minus 5x plus 3. Voila! Once we distribute, we can then combine like terms. Okay, so 4x, positive 12x, negative 5x, those are all like terms. 4, so in your calculator, you're going to put in 4 plus 12 minus 5. So 16 minus 5 is 11. Okay, so we just took care of these. Okay, and then we have negative 4 plus 18 plus 3. So negative 4 plus 18 is 14. 14 plus 3 is 17. 11x plus 17. Okay, so let's go back and do number 13 here. Now pay careful attention to number 13. I'm going to go ahead and write this on another page. We have 3 times 3x plus 5. Then we have a minus 2 times by x minus 7. Oops. You can see my pen is not being very cooperative tonight. And then we have plus 4x minus 11. Okay, so we are going to distribute this 3. Here's something I want you to be very careful of. There is a minus sign right here in front of this 2. So when we distribute this, we have to distribute this as a negative 2. That's the sign that's in front of it. Okay, so 3 times 3x would be 9x. 3 times 5 is 15. And then we have negative 2 times x, which is negative 2x. Negative 2 times by, this is a negative 7. That would be positive 14. And then we have plus 4x minus 11. Woo! Once we've distributed, now we can combine like terms. 9x, negative 2x, and positive 4x. Those are all like terms. So 9 minus 2 is 7. 7 plus 4 is 11x. Okay, so we just took care of these ones. Now we can take care of these ones. We have 15. We have positive 14, and we have negative 11. So 15 plus 14 is 29. 29 minus 11 is 18. Now, you guys, the thing that you're going to make a mistake on is the adding and subtracting of your positive and negative numbers. Please make sure you pay careful attention to what you're doing. Whatever sign is in front of the number, that's the sign of the number. So if there is a minus sign, that number is negative when you're combining. Okay, if there's a positive, that number is positive when you're combining. And then please, please, please use your calculators. Okay, I want you to use your calculators for this class. Please use your calculators to do your positive and negative number operations. Okay, 14. We're going to do this last one together, and then you guys will be ready for your quiz. Okay, so it says 5x plus 7 times by negative 2x plus 1 minus 3 times by 3x plus 4 and then we have plus 6x minus 15. Okay, so we have to distribute this 7 first. And we have to be careful again. We have a minus sign in front of this 3. Okay, can you guys see that? We have this minus sign here. So we're going to distribute as a negative 3 here. And this writing was kind of bad. So here we go. We have 5x plus 7 times negative 2x, which is negative 14x, 7 times 1, which is plus 7. Then we have negative 3 times by 3x, which is negative 9x. Then we have negative 3 times by 4, which is negative 12. And then we have plus 6x minus 15. Okay, now we combine like terms. So 5x, negative 14x, that would be a negative 9x. And then we have another negative 9x, and we have a positive 6. So in your calculator, do 5 plus negative 14 plus negative 9 plus 6. And that will give you negative 18 plus 6 is negative 12x. Okay, then we have 7, negative 12, negative 15. So 7 plus negative 12 is negative 5. Negative 5 plus negative 15 is negative 20. Okay, you guys, that is how you use the distributive property. Here is your quiz using the distributive property quiz. I want you to pay careful attention to number 2. Do you guys see this minus sign in front of this parenthesis? So you're going to distribute there first. So I'm going to even get you started with that. Negative 1 times 4m would be negative 4m. Negative 1 times 7mn would be negative 7mn. And negative 1 times negative 7 would be positive 7. Okay, so once you have distributed the negative 1, all of this is gone. Okay, all of this became this. Okay, and now you're just going to combine these terms and these terms with these terms. Okay, you're going to combine all the like terms to simplify this. Okay, question number 1. Remember, you need to distribute the 3 first and then combine your like terms. Question number 3 is just simplifying this expression by combining like terms. There's no distributive property. If you are still needing some extra practice with this lesson, if you would like to do some more problems on your own, please join us in one of the breakout rooms and we can help you. If you are ready to take your quiz, go ahead and do that. Remember, you need to make sure and write down each problem and show your work and then upload your quiz to the assignment box. We will grade it and give you some feedback. If you get a 3 out of 3 on your quiz, you'll be ready to move on to the next lesson. When you check your feedback, if you are asked to meet with us, we will see you in class in one of the breakout rooms to help you with what you need. So with that said, I hope you guys have a really good day, and I will see you in the next lesson.